So we've talked a lot about how COPD can improve with exercise, how you can improve your condition with exercise, you can improve your lung fitness, but we haven't talked about the mechanisms of how that actually works. So what I want to do is touch on what's happening with the condition and what changes we can actually make to the body to make some improvement. So I think firstly we should say that we can't change anything with the condition itself. So what I mean by that is, I'll explain it, both sides of this COPD coin, but with your emphysema, what's happening is at the little sacs at the end of your airways, your alveoli, instead of it being like a balloon and it expands and contracts with that elasticity, it becomes a bit more like a paper bag. It blows up, but then it never really contracts. It just stays expanded or partially expanded. And we can't change this with exercise. It doesn't, unfortunately, that trapped air that's sitting in that paper bag or that alveoli is still stuck there. So we can't do as much about that. There's other treatments aside from exercise that can help with that, but exercise doesn't necessarily have a direct effect on that. The result for someone with more of an emphysema type condition is that CO2 is just stuck there in the lungs, and the lungs become overly inflated, which makes it difficult to breathe. On the obstructive chronic bronchitis side, if you've got more of a bronchitis side to your COPD, the airways are inflamed, they're restricted, they're smaller, making it difficult to breathe. And then on top of that, you've got thick, sticky mucus that's sitting in there, making it even more difficult, constantly coughing that up. Now, exercise can't do anything about the swelling and the narrowing. Other treatments can do something with that. Sometimes exercise can help to heat up that mucus and get it moving a little bit better. And the vibration, the movement of the chest seems to help to clear it as well. But the mucus will still be there. But exercise does help. And there's a couple of other things that it does. The first one, improved peripheral muscle function. So what that means is that the leg muscles and the arm muscles, which are your peripheral muscles, so the ones at the end of your body, mainly the legs, are going to be more efficient. So your muscles are going to get better at extracting oxygen. So the muscles are better at pulling the oxygen out of the blood and utilizing it. After you exercise for a while, your body gets better at doing this particular task. And the benefit of that is that when you do produce some CO2, which is CO2 is like the waste, and that comes from lactate. What's happening is that you're actually producing less lactate because you're fitter, and therefore producing less CO2. So when you produce less lactate and less CO2, there's less need for your body to actually have to push so hard to breathe to get that CO2 out of your lungs. So because your muscles are more efficient, it gives your lungs a bit of a break. So just to recap on that one, your body gets better . So just to recap on that one, your body gets better at extracting oxygen from the muscles and then produces less CO2, which means there's less pressure on the lungs to get that CO2 out, less hyperinflation. So this reduced ventilatory requirements, less pressure on the lungs basically, helps to reverse the breathlessness and reverse the disability spiral. add to that the fact that, when you COPD training, exercise rehabilitation, you're going to improve your strength too. So that's definitely going to help as well in terms of reversing that disability spiral. You might think, well, what's the disability spiral? And it's this pattern that a lot of people with COPD get into, where you feel a bit wary or afraid of being breathless, which is fair enough because it's quite difficult to do, to breathe normally, and very difficult to exercise in a lot of cases. So you avoid it, and then you get less fit, and then it gets harder to do things, and you think, I'm really struggling to do this, I probably need to get some help, and then you do less and less, and eventually it just goes around and around, and you slowly spiral downwards, constantly doing less, constantly becoming more fearful. What we're trying to do with exercise rehabilitation is build you up. So instead of this cycle on this particular slide, what we're doing is we're trying to build up your muscle, get it working more efficiently, get you a bit stronger. Then, as a result of being a little bit fitter, you're going to want to do a few more things, or be able to do a few more things. And that's going to result in you being a bit fitter. And then you're probably going to be motivated, and you're going to keep exercising, you're going to get a little bit more fit, and you're going to do more things. And gradually, bit by bit, you'll notice that you're doing more and more, and that will lessen the fear of breathlessness. And you'll find you can do activities without the same level of breathlessness that you once did have. So they found that when people actually did all of this stuff, and this is a proper walking, a proper exercise rehabilitation program for COPD. This combines strength exercise and some cardiovascular exercise like walking or cycling. They were able to increase their walk distance by 44 meters in 6 minutes. So usually a lot of people can only walk about 250 meters, 300 meters in 6 minutes. So that's a pretty big chunk. And decrease the St. George Respiratory Questionnaire by 6.9 points. So what that is, it's a questionnaire to ask you about how you're going with your health at the moment and your well-being, quality of life. So their quality of life got a lot better, and they can walk further. Probably for a lot of people, usually in that case, probably maybe a quarter. So they increased their walking distance by between 10 and 25%. So it's a pretty big jump. So hopefully guys, that helps to put it into perspective about what exactly exercise can do to try and improve your overall lung fitness, and why it's worth your time and worth some investment in your energy.